Welcome to the Remarkable Dentist Podcast with me, Fred Joyle, where I interview amazing dental practice owners digging into their successes and failures, their insights and hindsights, getting their views on where dentistry is going, and discovering what it took for them to become remarkable. Welcome to the Remarkable Dentist Podcast. My remarkable dentist today that I'm interviewing is none other than Dr. Yolanda Mangrum, a terrific dentist and a great friend of mine. She does all sorts of amazing things in dentistry, and you're going to be just amazed and astounded at all that she undertakes and all that she accomplishes. So let's dive right in. Welcome to the show, Yolanda.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to be on the second podcast here because I really do think that you are doing remarkable things yourself, and I'm absolutely excited to share any information that can help anyone at any time.
So give us the dimensions of your practice. How many team members, how many associates, break down the practice chairs and stuff like that for us.
So I have a 10,600 square foot building. We have about 40 employees. I've got 7,900 square feet built out so far, 16 operatories, very spacious operatories, very more like dental suites. And we have 9 associates. We have multi-specialty practice with now integrating medicine as well, which is the new exciting thing for this year. We're going to be having a med spa and having medical personnel as well.
So you do so much that I want to start to click off some of the things, along with being a dentist. Now, how long have you been practicing?
So I have been in dentistry. I started out as a dental assistant, and I think that that is important to note because I have done every position throughout the profession. And so in '89, I got into dental assisting, went to dental school, graduated in '97. So I'm a couple decades into this for sure, a little bit over. So.
Yeah, the decades zoom by, but you've built a tremendous practice. And you also do a thing called the Luminary seminars, which are specific types of training seminars as well, correct?
Yeah. So for me, I've always been, a teacher at heart. I graduated and immediately got a professor titled position as a faculty at UCSF. I did that for the first 3 years of my dentistry profession. I really, really enjoyed that. I now coach with Fortune Management. And so Luminary is, and I'm a total, I would say I'm a total CE junkie, as they say. Constant learner, always learning something. And so the idea of making sure that that's a center part of our practice, that we're always improving, always looking for the latest information. And so Luminary is an exciting place for us to be able to put it all together and then to share it. Because one of the things that I don't believe in is trade secrets. I mean, I think that, everybody got there by working with the information that they got from everyone else. And so if I can help someone to get there faster, and I can be some part of their success, then for me, that makes me pretty excited as well. So Luminary was definitely something to help my practice to get the latest and have the best speakers actually from around the world. We have international speakers come to Luminary, and then that gets incorporated into our practice, and we get to become better every time someone comes in and shares their information.
Well, and you're not just teaching because you're a massive doer as well. Everything that's going out to them has generally been implemented by you.
Mm-hmm.
You integrate all sorts of the latest technology. I know that there's very few things you don't try and buy to make it so that your patients are getting the best possible treatment, and that you're giving your team members the greatest tools they can use as well. I know you have Sarek in the office, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we have 3 acquisitions and a couple mills, and they're going all the time. So
I remember seeing them all lined up there and went like, wow, there's 3 milling machines going. This is a crown mill factory. Um, but that's so important because you can afford that technology because you have the momentum of a successful practice. You've built on your revenue and reinvested in the practice to make it stronger and stronger. I want to talk a lot about that stuff, but I know people who listen to me are always interested in like, yeah, but how is she promoting her practice? What is the way that she attracts enough patients to have a practice of this size and support this many associates?
So I, again, just like the education, I've always believed in giving back. The more you address life with a giving hand, I think the more comes back. And it's always felt better to me rather than taking my money and putting it towards, say, an advertisement in the newspaper, which, by the way, that's exactly how I started my scratch practice in Sonoma. Is, there was no other way. It was Yellow Pages and, and doing that. But I also started even then figuring out how I could give back. And at UCSF, we were really ingrained with this idea that, California invested in us to become a dentist. And so it's our duty to go back and give back. And so I've always done things like Give Kids a Smile and and created my own programs, which before Give Kids a Smile was there, we called it Sealant Clinic. And so throughout the time, we'll have community outreach events throughout the year. In pre-COVID times, there's something almost every month, if not every month. And sometimes it was things that we would just have a basket out that someone is collecting cans, or someone's needing coats or something. So we really keep in touch with our community, and I've incorporated that many times over with doing screenings I have hundreds of ideas of things. And what happens is, and I explained this, the biggest thing for me is getting into humanitarian services. And when I can find ways that people can also give when I'm giving, like incorporate my patients in the opportunity to give, because I believe you end up feeling so much better. And if it's only me and I just give, then I didn't actually make as much of a rippling impact. So I like to get my team members involved. And in fact, at this point in the game, I don't have a hard time finding people to come work for me. And that would be an important thing. So this community service is not just it's not just attracting patients, it's also attracting team members that are interested in being a servant leader in the community. Someone who's like, oh, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to be participating in these kinds of events that you guys do with veterans, with freedomdayusa.org. You got to check that out, by the way. But there's there's so many different things that we're doing, and they're seeing this on social media posts, and so and they're like they're seeing us, having fun and engaging, and they're seeing us doing the life-changing opportunities that we put out there and making an impact, because as we teach in Fortune, the life mastery absolutely has part of it to be with contribution and spirituality, and ultimately, contribution has been a huge part of growing my practice. And it's not done directly as like it's not like, oh, let me see what the ROI on going out into the community and doing that. It's truly building goodwill and being a leader in the community, and leading, like I said, with your giving hand. So when anybody is doing things like silent auctions for their different charities, I have a policy that we always give something. So whatever it is, they tell us what they're doing and what they need. If they're doing an AIDS walk, I mean AIDS, I think it's an AIDS ride, or a leukemia organization where the individual is going to go out and do something to raise money. I like to do things like give away a Zoom whitening and say, here, auction this off. We'll do it for free, and now you can get some money from that, because probably what I could do could give them more money than them just getting a dollar donation. So I try to help people to contribute in ways that amplify the involvement. Like for instance, when this COVID thing, we're still doing this. The handmade cloth masks, we're sterilizing those for people and putting them in nice individual bags. So finding ways to give back to the community. We've had a lot of fires. So we've gone to shelters and, cheered up the kids with being in, Smile Defender costumes and, doing things like that. So there's always ways to give back to the community. You just listen in and you can find ways to support. And I get my kids involved in this too. We get our team members and their kids, and so it just brings so much goodwill to all of us, and just that's how I like to grow it. It's a lot better than just writing a check out and trying to get the ads.
Well, it's the most essential form of marketing is that it's really telling people who you are and being a part of the community. But there are benefits that in this world that we live in, these events that you're doing all of the time, these become social media posts that also show people who you really are, how much you contribute to the community, how active you are. But I see this process of you. You're always finding a creative way to engage the community. And as you say, you're not looking for this one-on-one ROI. If I do this, how many patients do I get? If I do this, what do I produce? By disconnecting those two things, all you do is behave generously and abundantly, and it comes back in abundance. I mean, you're living proof that this is how you can build a tremendous practice, is to show people who you are. And I want to really point out something you said, because everybody's struggling to find team members. Mm-hmm. I hear that all the time, except from people who run really great practices that are really great places to work. They don't have any trouble at all. And you've made it so you've elevated the purpose of this job from just helping people take care of their teeth to helping people. You shortened your purpose to broaden the marketplace. And I think it's just amazingly wonderful, but also incredibly effective. I mean, the living proof is you live an abundant life. As they say in Fortune, it's okay to do well by doing good. And you do a tremendous amount of good way beyond dentistry, and that is extremely admirable. And I think I want people to hear this and understand that you can do a brilliant website and you could do great ads, but in the end, the experiences of being a patient is what matters most. And these are remarkable things that you're doing. Remarkably generous, uh, remarkably committed to your community, and let's not forget fun.
Yes.
You said Smile Defenders. Now we know what that is, but talk a little bit more about that, because that's sort of a little inside story that we know about. That's just a great little thing.
Yes. So Smile Defenders are basically this comic strip type superheroes that have these giant costumes that can go around, and it's kind of like Disneyland. You can put the Defenders costumes on and get to be a kid yourself. It adds a lot of fun and excitement. And so, yeah, you can check out and find out Smile Defenders out there. I highly recommend it, especially if you're looking for something to really engage your practice with more children. That is a fantastic program. They're really adorable. They're fun. It's always, whether you're doing something like Smile Defenders or you're doing a charitable thing with veterans, by the way, and which is another great program, Freedom Day USA. You can find them at freedomdayusa.org. That is so engaging. And one of the things that I want to point out about these programs is a lot of times you don't have to put a lot of money into being charitable. Sometimes it's just time, it's energy. And for me, I think one of the things that I would really like to point out to everyone is it's always about energy management. In throughout the entire your life and your practice, it's what energy are you going to give to something. And a lot of times you can get a lot more output with less energy. And that's a key thing, I think, when you're talking about your training programs, whether you're talking about what you're going to implement into the practice. It's what energy are you going to be able to give to this, and what is it going to really take to implement that system or to implement that protocol or onboard a whole nother profit center in your practice. Energy management comes back to how you're going to respond with your emotions. And I would say if there is one particular success tool to master for anybody on this planet, and it got tested really strongly this year with COVID, is energy management. And some people like to say, oh, it's your emotional intelligence or that type of thing. But honestly, I think it comes back to energy expenditure. How much energy does this deserve? For instance, someone does you wrong, something happens, and truly they're the jerk. Of course they're the jerk, but ultimately it's how much do you want to give energy to that? How much do you want to give weight to that so that that takes over your life and maybe comes back and impacts your kids and the day you had and all of that. So with dentistry is a tough field, and you do have to have a good amount of resilience. And so
I want to stop you, because when talking about resentment just reminded me of one of the most profound things I ever heard.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about energy expenditure. A lot of people get wrapped up in resentment. And the greatest quote I ever heard about it was, resentment is like drinking poison hoping the other person dies.
Yes. Yes.
Right. It affects you way more.
Yes.
It'll make you sick, but it's like and as you say, it reverberates to the people around you that you are in resentfulness mode.
Yes.
So
yeah.
That's such an important point. I wanted to really highlight that use of energy that could be turned to we don't have infinite energy or willpower. So how is it being marshaled through the day for our own benefit and the benefit of our community, our practice, our world? So.
Correct. Absolutely. Because, ultimately some of these events that take on, they could definitely be an energy drain and, and pull away if you don't set them up just correctly. If you don't have the right support team, if you're not thinking about really being a good event planner, that's an important thing. But, on the day-to-day, just kind of going to the day-to-day process, what kind of energy are we willing to hang on to? I mean, what echoes through your hallway as soon as someone comes in and then they dump their negative energy in your practice? Are you going to let that continue to echo? Are you going to look at them and do something like we're taught in Fortune, which is see things as either love or cry? Are they sending you love, or are they crying for help? And many, many, many times there's a lot of cries going on in the office. And I have spent these decades in dentistry recognizing that exactly what you've said. Am I going to let their cries cause my energy to become a bad day? Am I going to take on their energy and then amplify that to, say, an assistant, or amplify that to my front desk? Am I going to cause an upset and let that echo through there? So constantly, I think that reevaluation of your self thoughts, which is one of the things I really love about our reality check, and getting excited to maybe be able to be in a position when someone's crying to get right beside them and maybe be able to do something like the fish story, which is, make their day, figure out a way to help them be just a little bit less grumpy as they leave, versus you take on their grumpy. And so, I think that that's a huge part, is to really dial in. And if you want to be remarkable, if you want to live a remarkable life, then you want to figure out how to manage your energy and find out how you're leaving people. Because if you're leaving people excited to have been around you, then they're going to attract to you. They're going to want that energy. They're going to want to be around you. They're going to want to get some of that stuff. And otherwise they're going to want to repel you. I mean, if you're putting that out, interestingly enough, you're going to get more of that. And so to me, 2 success points right now would be definitely being involved in the community and definitely focusing on energy management.
So I'm going to go back a little bit in time here and say, is there a moment where you knew that you wanted to become a dentist?
Yeah, I think so. Well, there's a moment that the world knew that I needed to become a dentist. So I'll say that. I started out needing a lot of dentistry. I had baby bottle tooth decay. I was parents. My parents were teen parents, and I ended up having a lot of teeth issues as a child. In fact, my 4 front teeth were taken out when I was like 2, and so I ended up having ongoing issues and all the way through my teens. And so when I got to my teens, and I became able to get braces and get my teeth straightened and start to be in a position where I didn't always smile like this with my head down. it was something that was such a big deal to me. And I guess when they'd say, "Oh, look at that cute boy," and I'd say, "He's got a pretty smile," and they'd say something about his eyes or something, but I always said something about the smile. And I remember in high school the kids telling me, "Oh, you should just be a dentist." And I immediately repelled the idea. I was like, "Oh, and spend every day getting spit on every day? I don't think so." And so, but I did get very attracted into science, and I also was very attracted early on into business. And so this became something as I went into college. It became very, very obvious that that's what I was meant to do. And the idea of being in healthcare and having a job that every day you get to go and help someone, it's definitely had a very enriching um, uh, part of my life. And I would highly encourage people to get into our profession. I think that we have still so many options and choices, and we can create whatever kind of world we want to be part of with dentistry. It's very, very exciting.
Well, and you talk about giving as well. And as a profession, and I tell this to dentists who say, well, like, what do I do for charity? I went, like, you have the greatest thing to give away, your skill, your
Yeah,
ability, what
yeah.
your team can do. Don't give money. And also, when you give money, how does that impact the practice? Oh, you've got your name on the back of this or on the flyer or something like that. If you're physically there with your kids and your team and their kids, that's 180 degrees from giving money, and
Mm-hmm.
and 100 times the impact. And I know we're certainly almost back to the same idea, but it's so critical because it's so powerful that I want to drive it home. So let me ask you this: when you went into dentistry, what was the biggest surprise that you discovered about the profession? What were you not expecting that sort of showed up?
Well, luckily for me, I had been a dental assistant. I and so I had some insights for sure coming into it, even as a dental assistant. But the surprise, I think, to me was just how much psychology is part of influencing people and supporting people, and and how much every day, people are coming in and they're putting on a different face. They could be the totally different personality if you see them at in an event, but when they're in your chair, they look totally different. And fear comes out in so many different ways. And so I would say I was just the everyday things of thinking that someone's not. Some people are very cool and calm, but they're on the inside, their heart's racing. And so I just didn't realize probably how much psychology went into everything all the time with doing our work, because as dentists we're artists, we're mechanics, we're engineers, we're influencers, we're coaches, we take on so many different hats, but the real power is understanding people and meeting them where they are. Because otherwise, I mean, if we were just fixing everything that's broken all the time, then that's not making. I don't think that's really the fun part. It's the part we do, but the real being part is really getting to know our patients, getting to live a part of their lives, and making an impact on checking in with them on a regular basis throughout. I mean, now at this point, I have generations that I've seen, so that's pretty exciting. But yeah, that's the part that's I think the most exciting.
So what's always interesting for people to find out is where you goofed, like what was a failure that you just like just if you had to do it over, you'd like, yep, I wouldn't have done that. Can you think of some of those things? Because everybody, when you have a success like yours, people think, oh, it's this steady rise.
No. No, I'll tell you globally, um, the more successful you are, the more failures you've had. I mean, and it's not about the failing, it's how quickly, again, it goes back to energy, how quickly you're going to take from that failure and learn and then and recorrect. Success is not a straight. It's this and this and this and this and this, right? So it's always about failing. It's not about the wins. The wins are like, oh, okay, they came. To me, it's always about the failing. So if we answer the phone incorrectly or someone gets upset, it's like, I want people, and I coach my team and my teams that I coach in other practices. It's like, it's about the quick recovery from the failure. Literally, we could go on for days about how many times I've failed, how many times I've bought a piece of equipment that turned out to be a waste of money, or decided that I would try to get a particular profit center going and found out that it was more costly than it was to be able to do that procedure. So I've got, I could put volumes of books in together about all my failures, and that's part of the reason why I was wanting to do the coaching is, if someone can learn from my experience of where I've gotten, and if that's worked, I'm happy to share that always. So, but the key thing is, with all of success is, if you learn from other people's failures, if you can learn from their failures, and so that you don't have to go through the pain yourself, I think all the better. And so ultimately, I think, for instance, let's talk about just hiring people. At this point, I've had hundreds of people become under my employment. All of them have made an impact on who I am today. Today, they may say, in that moment in time, and the person that I showed up and what I was at that moment, they may say, that's not who she is. Well, no, I'm not that person anymore. I've continued to getting better. I've continued to look into myself and look at my ego and figure out exactly what I did to mess that up. The problem that we do is, if we continue to take ourselves back into that next job and think that, it's going to get better, or that next relationship, say that, a marriage or a significant other, it's like, you have to work on yourself all the time. And and in my case, the other key thing that I would add is I own everything. No, I own everything. No matter what happened, my employee messed up, I own it, because somewhere I didn't communicate well enough. I didn't maybe pick the right person. It could get to that place and we could have that discussion. But up to a certain point, it's that I didn't make myself clear enough about the consequences of this, and how important it is to me. Or I didn't communicate exactly how I wanted that done. And so here's the thing. If you're in ownership, then you have a control place. You're in control. If you take no ownership over things, then you're out of control, because you can only control yourself. So ultimately, controlling the situation, or being able to take all that on, I'm more about go grab it by the horns and say, let's do it. Because otherwise, I'm just going to be making excuses, and chances are I'm going to fail again. And if I'm going to not own it, and rather than just blame someone else for doing that, because a lot of times it takes not only just the training and the communication. Did I give them the time necessary to make that happen? I may not have, I may have expected them to become superhuman. And if anybody works for me, they know that I only expect superhumans to work for me. So I'm always having a higher level of expectation about what can get done in the limited amount of time. So they do need to hear, like, what is the priority here? And I may not have expressed that well enough, or so I own it. Whether that works or it doesn't work, I own it. And if it works, then the other thing is to take no credit. I think a great leader doesn't take all the credit.
Well, let's stop, because I want to stick with that idea of taking responsibility for everything, because it, again, like resentment, if your energy is going into resentment, if your energy is going into blame,
yes,
if you're absolving yourself of responsibility, you made that point of, then you're not in control. You're saying, I'm not in control of my life. As soon as you take responsibility for everything that happens, this is your life, and you're in control of it.
mm-hmm.
And that's where what you're really talking about is you learned to become a leader, and leaders make sure that they are managing the expectations of their team member, and that they're growing and learning all the time. And the next part that you're about to talk about is, I think, really important. I wanted to stop and say, taking responsibility, owning it, as you say, owning everything, changes the dynamic of how you interact with your people, but also changes how you feel about yourself, because you go like, I am in control. I just need to re-examine what I did, fix it, get better. Mm-hmm. But now talk about the other point about taking credit, because I think that's an amazing thought.
Yeah, so credit and praise. Praise is a really important thing. And I'd say, if there was honestly the hardest thing that I've had to really work on, it's praise. And that is because I don't need it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, for me, I don't do it for praise. In fact, it's just like, it's something I go ahead and, say thank you and go away. But for some people, and I would say almost all of our team members are not wired that way. And that's an important thing to know, is that they do need reassurance. They need to know that they're doing the right thing. I think that our team members are, I come from the belief that our team members are people that work with us. They want to please us. They want to do it the right way. They want to feel the gratitude of a good work and an impact. And therefore, they need that acknowledgement. And I definitely don't say that I'm the best at doing this, but I do try to always end everything with gratitude and thank you, and I appreciate this. And this worked really well. The other thing, about that is...
that's, we as really ambitious people really suck at giving appreciation, because we're intrinsically motivated. Right. Mm-hmm. So we don't need that to propel us. But everybody else who's sort of living at an operational level, really, they want to know not just where they made a mistake. They want to know where they're doing good. They want to feel, it's about spreading positivity. Again, circles all the way back to your thoughts about I'm trying to be a positive voice, a positive impact in the community. Appreciation is a positive impact on those people that are making your business better, your treatment of your patient base better. So, and we're bad at it. Everybody I know we don't do it anywhere near enough.
Absolutely.
And it's magic. It works like magic.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, praise and credit, and because, if it's kind of like, if you're only coming to them, it's a depository. And when it comes, let's just go back to management of energy. If we are depositing enough positivity and letting them know what they are doing right, then we now have earned the opportunity to come to them and help them with corrective processes. We cannot just drain people and be a vampire of energy with not build them up. So when it comes back to the praise is a depository, and then they're going to feel more confident, and then they're going to do things. I had an assistant one time who, and in fact, she's still with me to this day, and this has been nearly 2 decades. But the other associate worked with this assistant, and she was a fumbling mess. She dropped things, she got nervous, and clearly the associate did not like this person, and so they showed up differently. I saw that time and time again. It's like, well, what are you doing to make her nervous? What do you mean? She's a bad assistant. No, she's not a bad assistant. She works with me all the time, and she's doing all kinds of great things. But when we can make people nervous, and my goodness, the worst thing I ever hear, and I'm just astonished that people do this, and is blame the assistant for your poor work. It's like, well, that wouldn't have happened, but she handed me the wrong thing, or she did this, or she did that. I'm like, whoa, that's just awful. And so it's a depository. We have to give them enough praise and tell them what they're doing well at, so that we can then grow them and help build them up so that they can then go to the next level. Because it's all about leveling up their skills, and nowadays, there's 80% of our United States employees are not happy. They're not happy in their workplace. And how is it that they're not happy? They're not being fulfilled. They're not finding purpose. They're not engaging because it's just work. Well, work is a large portion of their life. If they're not enjoying it and they're not feeling return, and I mean return beyond just the dollars in exchange of their time, or I like to think of it as they only have so much life, so they keep spending their lifetime. And so if they're going to spend their lifetime with me, I tell everyone in 2009 or 2011, Hired to Inspire, Jennifer Chevalier and I wrote that. And the intentions behind that was I decided after a decade of being an employer that I no longer wanted any employees. And you say, well, what, everybody partners in and it's some stockholder thing? No, I only want partners. If you're coming here and you just want a paycheck, then we're not in a good position. We're not the right practice for you. Because here in my office, we're looking to be partners. We're looking to be surrounded by everyone is a leader, and everyone needs to step into their leadership at all times. I don't have employee employee conversations. I won't do it. If you can't show up and be here and be present, and no, I'm going to come and say, we need to have some leadership conversations, because I'm about accountability. It's not easy to work for me because I hold things at a high level. But I think that the give back is that I'm also very, very generous with, understanding that we're all going to make mistakes. And I want them to, it would be far worse to me for them not to act and then basically accept a failure because they didn't act, versus do their best and then be able to validate what they did to do it and why, so that I can work on them being a thinker. So happy people I only want happy people and I only want partners around me. So if it's not a win-win, if you're not coming and getting more energy and excitement from your day by being part of our practice, if it's draining and stressing you out, it's not a win-win. And we want things to be a win-win-win. And what I mean by that, it's patience, team, and self. So in the end, if we've got a win-win-win, then we're all going to grow. We're all going to be fulfilled, and our patients are going to win that much more because just like the Southwest, I think it's called Loyalty. It's over on my bookshelf there. The book Loyalty. How Southwest builds that loyalty is they work on their customers being their customer is their employees. And so I think that we have to constantly be working on that as CEOs, as owners, and then our team members, or in my case, I call them my partners, will take care of my patients, and they will love them and trust and build trust with them, just as they do with me. So that's how I focus things in.
Now, a lot of dentists are going to want to ask this question. If they were calling in, they'd call in right now and go, do you bonus your team,
Absolutely.
your partners?
Absolutely. Always. In fact, we have open book accounting. I don't even know how you could manage energy. You could manage expectations. I don't know how you could go through without them understanding the business. And the business is that it costs money to run this operation, and that there are real expenditures. So, ultimately, there's no questions of them asking how much I'm making or any of that. That's not what it's about. It's about understanding what it's going to take to operate this business. And if they don't know the costs, the true costs of doing and running a business, then how can they make the right leadership decisions in the moment? And so with that, we do have a bonus system, and the bonus is if I'm making more, then they're making more, and the bonus is tied to the things that are controllable by them, which is get the money collected and manage their hours of salary. So we don't have. I don't walk around, generally have to be the person that's walking around telling people to get off the clock. The team self regulates themselves because you're not spending my money on that necessarily. You're spending the team's money on not being efficient or effective, and having to you know not being effective with their management of overtime or looking up for that. So everybody, it takes away so much stress that I could have, because they know how that works, and then they're also responsible for certain controllable expenses. And so because they know that, hey, you got to watch supplies, the lab's charging us more than they should, or all the different things that are under a controllable expense. If they don't have some insights on that, they can't do it. And I don't think that you can ask people to do more without there being the ability to earn more. And so I wouldn't be in a position of being able to say you're my partner without them being able to be in a place where they could win better themselves.
Well, and I think that it also ties into that same thing as we when we make enough money, like you and I do, we don't worry about money as much. We have different concerns about money. When you're making 30, 40, 50, $60,000 a year, you have money's an issue,
Yes.
Right? And if we lose that perspective, that just like with appreciation, that they need appreciation way more than we do. They need money for that basic Maslow bottom part is like food, shelter, house, and cars and school and clothing and basic stuff, and then a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important that they feel involved in that.
Yes, because
So
they have to have some level of control so that they can make some influence in controlling that part of their lives as well, for sure.
yeah,
So
well,
if they bring more,
I
they get
love that.
more.
I love that you involve them so much in the finances instead of just they know why they're getting a bonus and how they're getting a bonus, and they're functioning as partners. We could obviously talk about tons more on business, but I want to close this with just a couple of simple, semi-irrelevant questions that are very personal and fun, and know that people can find you through Luminary in the show notes. I'm going to make sure that they can find out how to learn more from you. But let me ask you this: if you could live anywhere in the world for a month, which of these, what city would it be? Would it be you had, or it could be an island, could be, could be Mars,
For a month, you said?
a whole month. You
Oh,
could
I'd
just
go to
go. It would
Japan.
have no. It would be Japan. So okay, so
The city in Japan, I'm not exactly sure, but I would go to Japan for sure. I've been to many parts of the world, and plan to go back to many parts, especially in Asia. But Japan, I really love Japan.
cool. Favorite movie and why?
That's a tough one. I don't know. I never really watch anything a second time. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, so you have no favorite movie, which is interesting. That you wouldn't. There's no movie once you've watched it once, that's it. You're moving on.
I usually move on. Yeah, yeah. I would say on Netflix right now, there's tons of things going on, but the most interesting thing that I've watched recently is The Undoing on HBO Max. That was really well done. But I wouldn't watch it probably again. But it was.
Of course not. No, that's not what you do. Worst meal you ever had?
Oh, I would say the worst thing I've ever tasted is durian. Oh,
Yes.
oh, that's awful.
Yeah.
I
You don't
can't
even
do
have
it.
to taste it; just smell it.
Yeah. Oh,
It's quite amazing. So thank you so much, Dr. Mangrum, for giving insights in how you have become remarkable and how you are continuing to become remarkable. For you listeners out there, this is the standard podcast request. Subscribe, recommend, comment, share. If you like this podcast, if you know other remarkable dentists who should be a guest on the show, or you think you might be remarkable and want to be on the show, then email me at fredjoyle@gmail.com. And thank you so much, Yolanda. And everyone else, keep becoming remarkable.
thank you very much.